Out of all of the cards that I've seen that have been super hyped, the Built MasterCard, the Wells Fargo Autograph Journey, even going back to the Chase Sapphire Reserve and Chase Sapphire Preferred, there is not a single credit card that I have ever seen which has gotten as much hype from people who aren't into credit cards as the brand new Robinhood Gold credit card. So we're gonna talk about everything this card has to offer, including the obvious 3x back on everything. We're gonna let you know what the catch is and whether or not this card is actually worth it for you. Spoiler alert, when it really comes down to it, I think people are way more excited for this card than they really should be. To start with the basics, this card has no sign-up bonus. So we have to judge this card based on whether or not it's a keeper card from the start. There's not going to be a bonus on year one value, as we call it. So if this card is good for you in year one, it's probably good for you in year two, but we have to see if that makes sense for you in year one. One of the biggest factors that goes into determining whether or not a card is worth it for you is the annual fee. And Robinhood is advertising this as a no annual fee credit card, but that's definitely misleading. That's like saying the Amazon Prime card that gets you 5% back at Amazon is also a no annual fee card. But for that card, you have to be an Amazon Prime member, which costs money. So too with this Robinhood credit card, you have to be a subscriber to Robinhood's premium program called Robinhood Gold. If you aren't one of the less than 2 million people in the world that currently have Robinhood Gold, then unless this has just woken you up to some special features for Robinhood Gold, which it might have, and we'll talk about that in a moment, then you should treat the Robinhood Gold subscription that you'll have to pay as an annual fee for this card, essentially, because right now we're looking at this card as a credit card. The Robinhood Gold membership has a $5 a month plan. That plan will not make you eligible for this card. This card is only eligible to people on the annual plan. So you can't just get Robinhood Gold for a month, get the card, and then cancel it. They're requiring you to get the annual plan. The good news about the annual plan is the annual fee drops from 5 times 12, which would be $60 a year. They give you $10 off or 2 months free, essentially. So they only charge you $50 a year. Looking at this card in isolation, you're looking at a $50 effective annual fee with no credits to offset that. Now, the big differentiator about this card is the fact that it gives you 3x back on everything. So that 3x back on everything is the headline feature that you'd essentially be paying $50 a year for if you aren't already a Robinhood Gold customer. So the challenge in this video is figuring out, for someone who isn't a Robinhood Gold customer, is it worth paying $50 a year for an extra 1% back on what you would usually get with the most competitive cashback, no annual fee cards. And it's here where you start to realize that the 3% might be more than a marketing gimmick than an actual feature that you'd actually want in a credit card. If you look at what it takes to actually make that 3% worthwhile relative to the other 2% cards, given that you're paying a $50 annual fee, you're paying $50 for an extra 1% in cash back. Therefore, you need to spend $5,000 a year just to earn an extra $50 from this card compared to the 2% card. So if you're spending less than $5,000 a year on this card, and your only spend on this card should be your spend where you don't get a 5% cashback category. So for example, if you have the Chase Freedom Flex, if you have the Discover It card with the quarterly 5x back categories, or if you have the Citi Custom Cash Card that gets you 5% in your highest category, for the 5% categories, there's no reason you should be using this card. So what you're looking at here is, are you going to spend $5,000 a year in that other general spending category? $5,000 a year, though, seems pretty small. If this is going to be your catch-all card, spending a little less than $500 a month on it doesn't seem like such a big deal. But here's the thing. There's a huge part of this credit card that we haven't taken into account, which is the fact that this card has no sign-up bonus. And you might be thinking, fine, that sign-up bonus is just a one-time thing. So what does it matter if the sign-up bonus would make another card better in year one? Because I don't want to get too many cards, so I'm just going to use this card forever. Well, there are a few things I would say about that. We do have precedent of cards, like for example, the original Uber card, where they had at the beginning really, really advantageous benefits, and that was kind of a marketing pull to get people in, and then they realized the card wasn't profitable enough for them, and they dropped the benefits. So when you are thinking about which cards to prioritize and which cards to get, you have to look at which card is the best for you now, and you shouldn't be getting a card for what you expect it to be 3 years from now. I'll give you an example. Let's look at the closest comp to this card, which is the Citi Double Cash card, which gets you 2x back on everything without an annual fee. We already said that the Robinhood card that gets you 3x back in a year would require $5,000 in spend to make up for the $50 annual fee. But we haven't yet considered the fact the Citi Double Cash card gives you a $200 sign-up bonus as soon as you hit $1,500 in spend in your first 6 months. And so if you're the type of person that would be spending at least $5,000 a year on your Robinhood card in the first place, which is what it would take to make it worthwhile at all, then you're easily in a position to hit that $1,500 minimum spend requirement, which gives you $200 back right away. So the difference now between these two cards is not the $50 annual fee, because one card in year one charges you $50 in annual fees, and that's the Robinhood card, and the Citi Double Cash pays you $200 and doesn't charge you the $50. So the Citi Double Cash card is worth $250 more than the Robinhood Gold card before you've taken into account the 3x back versus the 2x back. And now instead of the 3x being so much better that it needs to cover the $50 annual fee, it needs to cover the $50 annual fee plus the $200 sign-up bonus. So that means instead of spending $5,000 to break even with the Robinhood Gold card, you need to spend $25,000 just to make it worth having the Robinhood Gold card in year one versus getting the Citi Double Cash card and just getting your standard 2x back with the sign-up bonus and without the annual fee. Now, the obvious question to that is, well, that's year one, what about future years? And we touched on this a little, that you can't count on Robinhood to keep this card as competitive for so many years. You have to get the card for the benefits that are available to you right now. But also, if you're spending $25,000 on a card just to break even, it's very easy for someone with that kind of spend to find any other card which gets you any sort of simple cashback sign-up bonus with no annual fee. Even if you get the lowest one that I can think of, which is the Discover It card, which only gives you $100 back as a sign-up bonus for very minimal spend, you're already making it so that if you just get the Citi Double Cash and then sometime in the year the Discover It card, now all of a sudden you need to be spending $35,000 or more on this Robinhood card just to make it break even. And if you want it to be better than break even relative to your other cashback opportunities, you just have to be spending so much money on this card, because those are two of the lowest sign-up bonuses you can find. If you find a card with a sign-up bonus that's a couple $100, it just costs you an entire income or several incomes spent on the Robinhood Gold card each year for it to break even for you. And that's before we even begin to consider the fact that these Robinhood points are not that valuable. Yes, if you redeem them for cash, you could say these are worth 1 cent per point. So for a pure cashback setup, it's pretty good. I'll give you that. On the Venture X, for example, you're only going to get half a cent per point if you redeem for cash. But if you're getting Citi points, you can get that 2 cents back, and you have transfer partners. If you're looking at the Capital One Venture X, you have incredibly valuable transfer partners and 2x back on everything. So I actually, on my honeymoon, my wife and I went to Marbella, and we booked our flight to Marbella on Capital One points that we redeemed with KLM, and we got around 4 cents per point. And we get 2x back on everything for my Capital One Venture X card. That's like an 8x back on everything card. The Robinhood card would give me 3x back on everything. The Capital One Venture X gives me 8x back on everything if I can find those redemptions. Now, granted, that's an incredible redemption, but you can count, if you put in a tiny bit of effort, on finding at least 2 cents per point redemption for Capital One miles, for example. And without much difficulty at all, you can find 1.5 cent per point redemptions. So if you can get 1.5 cents per point on your 2x back card, you're essentially getting 3% cash back on everything. Whereas the Robinhood card charges you an annual fee to do that. The Citi Double Cash doesn't charge you an annual fee. And the Venture X, net of the credits they give you every year, is effectively a negative $5 annual fee. They pay you $5 and stuff every year to keep the card. And all of these alternatives have sign-up bonuses to go along with it, So the percent back you're getting if you use these points anywhere close to their potential is comparable, if not better, than Robinhood's, but with no annual fee and with a sign-up bonus. So it doesn't make any sense to me why someone who's interested in travel at all would look towards a card like this. Now, we'll get to what some of you are probably shouting right now, which is that you haven't mentioned that Robinhood has a travel portal now where you can get 5x back in their travel portal. Okay, fair enough. The Chase Freedom cards also give you that benefit of booking in Chase's travel portal and getting 5x back. And that doesn't require any annual fee. So that's not even a special benefit for this card. So the Robinhood card is a solid cashback card for someone who's dead set on only getting one card ever and who spends more than $25,000 a year on their card. That person might pair that with, say, a Bilt card to get their 1x back on rent, and then they have no annual fees, but also no sign-up bonuses. But on your spend, you get decent cash back and decent rewards. That being said, this card isn't really for anyone who wants to maximize the rewards and who's comfortable with getting multiple cards. Unless, and this is what Robinhood's goal is with this product, which is you fall into a group of people that would benefit from Robinhood Gold. Because then this becomes a no annual fee card, because if you're getting more than $50 in value from being a Robinhood Gold member, well, now the net effective annual fee for this card is not $50, but it's $0, because you're in a situation where Robinhood just made you aware of this Robinhood Gold program they have. So now you're taking a look at it and you realize, wait, I can get more than $50 in value a year. So therefore, I'll become a Gold member regardless of whether or not I get this card. And then once you're a Gold member anyway, the effective annual fee for the card then becomes $0. And this is what Robinhood wants, because Robinhood isn't making money every time you swipe on the card when they're paying you 3x back on everything. Robinhood is losing money on each of those swipes. Vlad Tenev, the CEO of Robinhood, was on CNBC when they asked him, okay, because you are losing money on every transaction, how in the world are you going to make money off of this? And he said, well, there are two ways. For credit builders who carry balances, this card is going to earn us money off of their interest. So my humble recommendation for you is, if that's you, if you're a credit builder who plans on holding a balance, do not get this card. There is no reason to pay them interest. That being said, he said the second type of customer that's going to be profitable for them is the type of customer who uses this as the gateway to get them interested in Robinhood's other products, especially their suite of Gold product offerings, which is actually really, really compelling. If you're a Robinhood Gold member, you actually get 5% APY on your uninvested cash, which is some of the highest you'll see in the market, although not as high as US Treasuries. So that's worth something if your current high yield savings account isn't paying you 5%. Robinhood is offering unlimited matches of 3% of deposits for IRAs and Roth IRAs. And for new IRAs and Roth IRAs, they're giving you the same 3x match up to the full amount you can possibly invest. So for example, if you don't have a Roth IRA yet, then you can start your Roth IRA with Robinhood. Once you get Gold, deposit your $6,500 this year, and I think it might be going up to $7,000 next year, and you'll get up to $390 as part of that 3% match. That $390 pays for that $50 annual fee almost 8 times. So you're basically good for 8 years of essentially a no annual fee card, and you're able to earn interest on what's invested in your IRA. So it's really going to be worth more than 8 years of annual fees. So if you would use Robinhood for that anyway, because you realize that the 3% transfer bonus or IRA match is going to be worth more than the $50 a year for you, then you should get Robinhood Gold regardless of whether or not you're planning on getting the card. And then the calculus for the card becomes much easier because it turns into effectively a no annual fee card for you. One other perk of Robinhood Gold is if you are fully invested, so if you don't have any uninvested cash, they give you $1,000 of margin for free, where they don't charge you interest. You could put that into a US-backed Treasury ETF and earn more than 5% a year on your $1,000 of free margin they give you. And then for almost no risk, you're earning more than $50 a year, which would cover the annual fee. Now, whether or not these bonuses actually make this card worth it for you are another story. Because again, we have to look at the opportunity cost. So if you use Robinhood Gold, that's great. But if the effective annual fee for this card is now 0, that still doesn't mean that it's a home run for you. Because now what you've done essentially, let's take the Citi Double Cash again as our example, you've changed the difference in year 1 annual fee from $250, because you have a $50 annual fee and a $200 sign-up bonus, so you have negative $50 and plus $200. So there was a difference of $250 between these cards in year 1 value. Now there's only a difference of $200. So that's okay, right? It helps, but now the break even for this card over the 2% Citi Double Cash card, the break even is now 20 grand of spend in a year instead of 25 grand. Which doesn't move the needle all that much. And you're also burning slots in 524, so that's Chase's rule, where if you get more than 5 credit cards from anybody in a 24-month time frame, then you won't be approved for any more Chase cards. And so because of the value of Chase cards, people don't want to get cards that aren't super valuable, and this card isn't super valuable just because you have to spend so much money on it to really see it make any sense. What I'm really trying to get at here is that Robinhood's 3x back on everything advertisement that they're putting everywhere is cool. It's useful to really high spenders who just want cash back and who don't want any travel benefits. But that doesn't make it a good card. It turns out, and I realized this while researching this card, that most of the value we actually get in cards is not from the extra 1% back we might get between a 2% and a 1% card. The extra 1% back, unless you're spending huge sums of money, is not going to make the difference in what you're actually able to get back from your spending. What does make a big difference is the sign-up bonuses you get, the annual fees you're paying, and any credits that you're getting with a card. Beyond that, it's good to optimize for the most cash back, but you have to understand how much money you would actually need to spend on that card for you to just break even, given that you're giving up the opportunity for another sign-up bonus. You're giving up the opportunity to get a different Chase card. And so many cards have higher sign-up bonuses than this Robinhood card, and so many cards have lower annual fees than this Robinhood card. Unless you're a huge spender, I really don't think this makes sense for you, because the most important things for you should not be the percentage you're getting back on every category. And this card is a great case study to really teach us that maybe category spend is a little bit overrated, because the things that most impact you, unless you're spending a ton of money, are going to be the sign-up bonuses, the annual fees, and the credits or features that any card gives you. Before we get to the end though, it is worth noting a couple last things about this card, just in case you're considering it. It is a metal card, if you care about that. If you refer 10 people, and you're one of the first, I think, 5,000 people to refer 10 people to this card, then you actually get a solid gold limited edition version of the card that is worth $1,100 in terms of the weight itself in gold. And so you actually have to pay taxes on an $1,100 gift if you end up getting that card. So maybe you don't want to. You can opt for $1,100 in cash instead. The Robinhood card is actually really good with authorized users. You can add whoever you want as an authorized user of any age. You can set their own limits. You can freeze the card whenever you want, and it doesn't cost any extra. And they also give you what's becoming more and more popular nowadays, which are virtual cards. That's useful. Some other cards also have that, so you should look into that. Again, that should not be a deciding reason for you to get this card over other cards. Google on Google Chrome has the option to give you virtual cards also. So that's not really a game changer. I think that's about it. If I missed anything, please let everyone know in the comments below. A like and subscribe would be greatly appreciated. I'm going to be posting new videos here at least weekly, and I look forward to seeing you next time.